I know plenty of you have been asking about my gear and what's in my backpack, so let's get into it, eh? Woo! Let's go hunting. Rightio, a few of you are asking what's in my backpack, what contents I've got in there, what sort of things I'm taking with me on multi-day sambar hunts. So this is just a straight up infomercial. I'm going to show you what's in the bag, what I take with me, and we're going to go through each and every little section. 3 major aspects coming into sambar hunting for multi-days. You want sleep, shelter, and food. Realistically, that's all you need, eh? The rest is all just horseshit. So anyway, let me show you what's in this pack. We will start off with the sleep system. I think that's one of the most important aspects with sambar hunting. If I don't get a good night's sleep or have a good midday nap, you don't want to know me. So let's just see what I'm running out there. First off, I've got a Cedar Summit Trek 3 sleeping bag. Quite handy, quite useful, not excessively overpriced, seems to be doing the job for me quite well. I'll team that up with Cedar Summit Reactor Liner. This thing is the duck's nuts. It'll boost me bag 10-15 degrees, they say. Whether or not it's exactly 10 or 15 degrees, it makes it a whole lot warmer. It's quite a comfortable sleep. Wouldn't go anywhere without this. As you know, I've just got a new mattress. We're using the Exped 5R mattress. I've downgraded per se. I used to use the 9 LWs and that's quite a large mat. It's super duper comfy, but it takes up a lot of space in the pack and in the tent. I need to scale down a little bit. I'm not about ultra light stuff, but I like just having a pretty basic, budget, but solid, bulletproof bunch of gear. So that's what we've gone with, Exped 5R mattresses. Then, to hide in everything, little Van Gogh 10 2-person. This one's a Banshee. All I need to do with that, it just needs to keep me dry and keep the critters out. So as long as I can rest up in there and spend a few hours, I'm happy as. So that's my sleep system. Quite simple, quite effective. Next up, we're going to talk about some clothes that I'm going to take. This is my bush coat, long, goes down to about my knees, just above. A bit of a dry bum, keeps me super warm. I can layer up under it, and I'm highly visible to all you buggers. Next to skin, I'll use some sort of thermal top. Very basic. Over that, I'll wear a polar fleece t-shirt. But that's also just standard polar fleece, just in layer system to keep me a bit warmer. If we start getting too cold, I'll also take some sort of polar fleece jumper along with me. This one's a bit lighter than what I'm wearing. This can weigh me down a little bit or takes up a little bit of space. So peak winter, I might take something like this jacket, thick polar fleece. It really keeps me warm. Alternatively, I'll use something a little bit lighter, and that is just a polar fleece with the hood. This will go on underneath that jacket, no worries, and keeps me quite warm. Once the day starts to warm up, I can take off the big jacket, and I'm still visible, and I'm quite warm still. And I can take that down and layer right down if I need to. Take the Reg Grundies, just to wear in case we get wet or around camp or something. Ideally, I like to wear these little tighties. They're thermal. Had them for a long time. Not much to them. They're polypropylene or whatever you want to call it. It's a real interesting one. The material for tights and all that, I'm not really that into it. I just got something that's warm and I keep wearing them. Also, lately I've got into the short game. Picked these up in Kiwi. Just phenomenal. I could get a lot more movement, feel a lot freer per se. When you're in country it's not full of blackberries, I dig it. When I'm in blackberry country, I take these things in. They're like a Gore-Texy type, heavy duty, fleece lined pant. Got them sent in from overseas. They are a takeoff model, but they seem to be working bloody awesome. And they'll just keep me really warm with thermals underneath and this. So it could get a bit hot at times, but that's why we'll gear down if we need to. So that's my clothing. Mostly I'll always have my orange hat. I will also take a beanie in there as well just to keep me warm. So next up we sort of have the contents of the little things in my bag. Some of those sort of things will include the cooking system. So I use this little HillDogTV. It's a 360 burning stove. Just hooks up to the gas cans, boom boom, away you go. Little pot sits on top, happy days. Boiling water. That's about all we're doing with it. Can cook stuff in there, a bit of rice, whatever. The beauty of this thing I find over Jetboil or other fast burning things is I can turn it right down and it can simmer. Simmering's great for food. Flat out gas heat, not the best. But I don't eat backcountry meals or dehydrated meals, so that's why I opt to use something like that, which is controllable. The pots and pans to go with the cooking setup. I'll carry a 3-piece cutlery set, knife, fork, spoon. Enough said. Gas can or 2, depending on length of stay. Inside the bag I'll also have water bladder. That's very handy for not only storing water but having it on the go as I'm hiking around, and any chance I'll get I will top that up. We also have our knife bag. Inside of that we have our little helium, we have a little scalpel, Paranta. I also take this heavy Leatherman because it's a multi-tool. It's got all the stuff I sort of need and probably won't need, but if I do need it, pliers, screwdrivers, little saw, whatever, it's all there. I take a little sharpening stone, always need a touch up, and that's contents of that. Next up I have some little pouches that are inside this backpack, and they consist of little items such as mattress repair kit, mosquito fly face mask, doubles as camo. I'll take a compass, a little bit of black tape, little plastic bags, and just some super glue and various other clips, buckles that can come in handy for the pack. In the other bag, that's got some important stuff, I think, for safety. So I have some matches, keep them dry in this little pouch. I have a space blanket sitting around just in case I need to get warm and I haven't got nothing else. I'm out there on my lonesome. I want to stay a little bit warm, so we wrap that up. Foil, boom, keeps our body heated in a little better. Take an asthma pump just in case. More textile, super glue. And most importantly, I carry a PLB with me these days. I used to think I didn't really need it, I'm only going locally per se, whatever. But that doesn't matter a shit if you're down in the gully and you do a knee, ankle, whatever. Plus there's a whole list of other reasons why you'll take one, but for safety this is just a no-brainer. It's a little KTI model. So as well as these other pouches, I've also got just like a little first aid kit, so to speak. It's just got some band-aids, bandages, a few pills here and there, eye drops, antihistamine stuff, just little shit like that, safety pins, etc. just in case. But at least we do have something if we cut our finger. And between the super glue and the tape, I reckon we could get it stitched up pretty bloody quick. So as well as all that in the backpack, I also take a pair of secateurs. They're just super handy for in the BlackBerry or any vine or whatever, just to try and, or definitely cut a track through. Time consuming, but hey, better than walking around or trying to walk through the shit. Alternatively, also in the pouches, I run a couple of rounds, but also just take a lighter with me. It's just great for lighting the camp stove, campfire, whatever. I'll also carry a rangefinder handy just on the hip belt because I don't want to be stuffing around and looking for a rangefinder in the bag. It's just on the hip belt, pull it out, boom, 300, let's send it. As well as that, around my neck I'll obviously have my binoculars. I use a 12x50 power binocular in the bigger country. Real big fan of just a 10x40, ideally a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, compact sort of little thing for just general stalking. And you can still, with a tripod and a little bino adapter, you can still glass them up at quite a considerable distance, because in that scenario it's mostly just a movement in which what you're finding between tree canopies to then pinpoint, locate, identify what that animal is. Yeah, sure, more power is better, but when you're up close trying to check out deer and stuff through up to 100 meters, it's really shaky and it can really hurt your eyes if you're just trying to hold on to it without said tripod. So that's just a few little knickknacks, paddywhacks. Now up in this section of the backpack, I'll also grab or run a head torch, so it's very accessible. Bits of coffee and stuff, but that comes under the food aspect we're going to talk about later. What I will have is a face mask, camo one, easy access, and some slightly warmer gloves that we found in the Wanagata. Also just run a toothbrush, some spare batteries, and more coffee. Ideally, we're going to take a lot of TP with this just to be sure, so there'll be always 1 or 2 rolls stashed in there somewhere. Now I think that sort of covers some of the contents of what I'm running in the pack. So now let's move on to a bit of food. So generally speaking, food is quite important out in the bush. And this is just some of the stuff that I'll take. And this will have no meaning to you whatsoever. However, what I will show you is that you can survive without all the basic or most important ingredients. I've always got my little hiking cup with me. If you guys want one, hit me up. But my diet will mostly consist of noodles and rice. It's easy to pack, it's easy to cook, okay? So we've got a few noodles on the go. Now I won't take all of them, but just for visual, that's what we're using. 2-minute noodles. I also like to take a whole bunch of muesli bars with me, just for snacking on the hill. And I'll just keep that into me as I'm a bit of a browser more than a full-on stuffer into me. I'll also take a whole bunch of coffee. I used to be into tea, I guess. Found the magic formula of coffee and what it does to the body, brain, so we load up on coffee. Also got a bit of a sweet tooth and I like to keep the sugar intake up, so I always take a whole bunch of lollies with me. And they can vary from snakes, frogs, sugary stuff, just whatever I can get my hands on at the time. Love it. Also just like to have some sort of snacks, whether that's shapes or twisties. We quite often small this down into a bread packet and just take a good couple of handfuls. And that's just a snack through the day. And then we'll double down on noodles or rice at night time. And then quite often just sleep. Not big on morning breakfast, but find the muesli bars are good just to grab and go. And when I'm walking around, you can just snack on one of them or two of them, no worries. But I'll make sure I've always got a whole bunch of mueslis and some backup ones at times in the bottom of the pack, just because I know we can get away with half a day or a day of just chewing on them. No real drama. Your food intake's going to vary. That's just a bit of a controversial topic to discuss, I think. I'm personally not a fan of big dehydrated meals at this point in life, but they're possibly quite often a good thing. Leave that up to you to decide. Apart from this, I've got a rifle that I'll take with me. I've got a tripod that I'm using at the minute, but it'll come with me. I'll also take the camera with me. So we've got a fair bit of gear hanging off us, but I kind of need it for what I'm doing, and I find I can't really get away with taking too much of this kit out. Sure, I could probably lighten up in places, but I'm hovering around 20 kilos, and that's quite good for me with this backpack. So no complaints here or there. A few other things just in this pack that I will take. There's the emergency muesli bars. They've been in there for a couple of years now probably. Sweet as. Whole bunch of batteries just for the head torch, or might drop a trail camera, or we might use it in the GPS at times. I haven't shown a GPS here because I'm not necessarily too fussed on a GPS. But the rest of it, but the GPS definitely has its merits, like you would have seen in that New Zealand series just gone lately. Without that, I would have been quite stuffed, period. So it's definitely on my radar to get one with the maps. I'm sure that helps out dramatically, particularly even if you know where you are. You might get back to camp at night, or you might have to do something at night and you can't tell where the hell you are. Map, GPS, boom. That's about all I'm missing out of this little Hudaki setup, but I hope that's given you some sort of insight that you don't need everything, but you do need a certain amount of the right things, and that's going to get you through, whether it's 2 days or 10 days. The biggest thing with extended period backpacking trips is the food. I would suggest to shoot a hind or blow a deer away at some point in that hunt if you're there for 7+ days. I lack a bit of protein obviously and a few other things, but that's where in that extended period, you would want to try and catch a fish or shoot a deer just to get that into you, and I think there's nothing quite better than a bit of rice and venison up in the bush. So anyway, time to throw all this stuff into the pack. I'm heading now for 3, 4, maybe 5 days, weather depending. And seeing as it is pretty weather dependent on this hunt, I will also just tie on the back of it just a raincoat. It's just like a real thin layer, windproof as well, so it doubles down. You can put it over the top of this, no worries, and you're protected from the wind and the rain. No one wants to be walking out in the rain, but sometimes you get caught in it, and this just goes over everything, and can't complain with that. Just super lightweight too, packs up into bugger all. So that's about all I've got to show you. I hope it's given some sort of insight on what you might need to set up a kit to be able to do multi-day Sambar hunts. Don't overthink it too much, don't look into the brand stuff too much, just sort of keep it simple. Spend what you can, what you comfortably can on certain items, but just make sure you got that shelter, sleep and food aspect sort of covered. Other big thing is obviously a well-suited backpack. You want to have something that's not hurting you, you want something that's comfortable. And then to some degree the boots are going to be quite a big factor in what you're doing, but at the end of the day, as long as you've got a reasonable boot on you and you're taking it easy and you're comfy and you're happy with that, then sweet as, no worries. And lastly, probably just worth mentioning that on this hunt I'm going to be taking the 35 wheel, and often I'll only take about 10 rounds for 5 days, and that's just for a bit of self-defense against the old wild dogs. and just in case shit goes a bit pear-shaped with where we're whacking these deer. But ideally, you should only take 3 shots to anchor deer as a maximum, but you want to have 7 more just in case. You might miss one, you might shoot that meat animal halfway through the trip, you might take 2 or 3 shots itself, whatever. Shit does happen out there, and you just want to be sure that you've got a couple more rounds spare to get the job done for the animal's sake. I've been recently caught out with a little drama like that in the New Zealand series, so if you guys have watched all my videos, get over to Patreon, check out all those videos. There's a whole bunch of exclusives that aren't going to be on YouTube ever, and I think you'll get a bit of a insight onto how I roll out in the bush and what's going on in my little part of the woods, I guess, and also up in the forest up in here. But anyway, catch us out there. We've got a bit of shit to pack, but enjoy yourselves first and foremost, respect the deer, and have a bloody good time doing it. Hooroo.